There is a woman in Gordonville, Pennsylvania, who has not set an alarm clock in 53 years. She goes to bed when the house goes dark, and she wakes when the light comes back. In between those two moments, she sleeps with a depth and a completeness that sleep researchers who have spent entire careers studying human rest would find remarkable if anyone had ever thought to study her. She does not take melatonin. She does not own a white noise machine. She has never downloaded a sleep tracking app, or invested in a weighted blanket, or tried magnesium glycinate, or any of the other solutions that the $45 billion American sleep industry produces in an endless stream for a population that is becoming progressively worse at doing something the human body was designed to do automatically and for free. The American sleep crisis is not a secret. The Centers for Disease Control has declared insufficient sleep a public health epidemic. Approximately 1 in 3 American adults reports regularly not getting enough sleep. Prescription sleep medication generates billions in annual revenue. Over the counter, sleep aids fill entire pharmacy sections. Melatonin alone went from a niche supplement to a mainstream staple, purchased by millions of Americans who take it every night without any clear understanding of what chronic supplemental melatonin use does to the body's own production capacity over time. Sleep podcasts, sleep coaches, sleep clinics, sleep retreats, and sleep-optimizing mattresses that cost more than some people's monthly rent have all emerged to serve a population that has lost access to something their great-grandparents did without assistance, instruction, or investment. The Amish sleep differently, not marginally differently, fundamentally differently, and the difference is not genetic, not cultural in any abstract sense, and not the result of some specific bedtime practice that can be packaged and sold. It is the result of a complete relationship with light, time, labor, and the hours between dusk and dawn that was common to all human populations before electrification reorganized the structure of daily life, and that the Amish communities of Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, and Holmes County, Ohio, have maintained without interruption because their theological commitment to plain living kept them from adopting the technologies that dismantled it everywhere else. What follows is a documented pattern of behaviors, environmental conditions, and daily rhythms that researchers, rural physicians, and sleep scientists have been examining in plain communities for years. The reason none of it has reached mainstream conversation in any meaningful way is the same reason that $2 apple cider vinegar never became the skincare headline it deserved to be. There is no product at the center of it. There is no subscription service it supports. There is no patentable mechanism that a corporation can own and monetize. The Amish sleep the way they sleep because of what they do not do, what they do not buy, what they do not use, and what they do not allow into the hours between supper and sunrise. And an industry that depends on your sleep being broken enough to require a solution has no structural incentive to point you toward that conversation. The first element is light, and it is the one that sleep science has documented most thoroughly, and that the modern world has most completely and most catastrophically ignored. The human circadian rhythm, the internal biological clock that governs the timing of sleep and wakefulness, is regulated almost entirely by light, specifically by the presence and absence of light in the blue spectrum, the wavelength range that tells the brain it is daytime and suppresses the production of melatonin, the hormone that initiates sleep. Every screen in the modern American home, every television, every smartphone, every tablet, every laptop running after dark, emits blue spectrum light directly into the eyes of the person using it. The brain receives that light and interprets it as daytime. Melatonin production is suppressed. The biological signal that it is time to sleep is delayed by 2, 3, sometimes 4 hours beyond the body's natural inclination. The person lies in bed unable to fall asleep, or falls asleep but without the hormonal preparation that makes sleep restorative, and wakes exhausted despite hours spent horizontal. This is not a theory. It is documented in peer-reviewed sleep research going back to the late 1990s, when the relationship between artificial blue light exposure and circadian disruption was first formally characterized. The research has been replicated dozens of times since. The conclusion is consistent and unambiguous. Artificial light after dark delays sleep onset, reduces slow-wave sleep depth, shortens REM duration, and impairs the hormonal cascade that makes sleep biologically restorative rather than simply physically restful. The modern American home, lit by screens until 11, midnight, 1 in the morning, is running a nightly experiment in circadian disruption on every person inside it, and then expressing surprise that those people need pharmaceutical assistance to sleep. An Amish farmhouse in Lancaster County goes dark when the sun goes down. Not metaphorically dark, literally dark. Kerosene lamps provide the only light source after nightfall in most traditional households, and kerosene light is warm spectrum, heavy in orange and amber wavelengths, and almost entirely devoid of the blue spectrum that suppresses melatonin. The brain of a woman sitting in the glow of a kerosene lamp after supper receives a light signal that is biologically almost identical to firelight, the light source that human beings sat beside for 100,000 years before electrification. Her melatonin production begins rising naturally with the darkening of the sky. By 8 in the evening, it is well underway. By 9, her body is making a case for sleep that is chemical, hormonal, and insistent in a way that no modern bedroom can replicate with blackout curtains and white noise, while a phone charges on the nightstand 3 feet from her head. The second element is temperature, and this one is underappreciated even among people who follow sleep science closely. Core body temperature drops naturally in the hours before and during sleep, as part of the same circadian process that governs melatonin production. The drop in core temperature is not a side effect of sleep. It is a prerequisite for it. The body initiates sleep more readily and maintains deeper sleep stages more consistently when the ambient temperature of the sleeping environment is cool, somewhere between 60 and 67 degrees Fahrenheit, according to the range most consistently cited in sleep research literature. An Amish farmhouse in Pennsylvania in October is cool at night. There is no central heating running at 72 degrees to maintain a uniform indoor climate around the clock. The temperature inside an Amish home tracks the outdoor temperature more closely than a modern insulated and climate-controlled house does, warming through the afternoon and cooling through the evening and the night in a pattern that mirrors the environment human sleep physiology evolved to inhabit. Women in those households sleep under heavy quilts in rooms that are genuinely cold in the winter months, and their bodies respond to those temperatures the way bodies are supposed to, by dropping core temperature efficiently, initiating slow-wave sleep quickly, and sustaining the deep, restorative sleep stages that constant, warm ambient temperature in modern bedrooms consistently disrupts. The third element is physical exhaustion, and I want to be specific about what kind of exhaustion matters for sleep quality, because this distinction is one the modern wellness industry almost universally misses. There are two categories of tiredness the human body produces: One is mental exhaustion, generated by sustained cognitive effort, screen exposure, decision fatigue, and the particular low-grade neurological stress a modern information-saturated workday produces. The other is physical exhaustion, generated by genuine musculoskeletal work, by moving the body through space against resistance, by the kind of full-body labor that leaves the muscles metabolically depleted in a way the brain registers as a specific and powerful sleep pressure. Mental exhaustion alone, the kind most Americans bring to bed after a day of desk work, meetings, screen time, and commuting, does not reliably produce deep sleep. It produces a wired, tired state that most adults recognize, that combination of being unable to stay awake and unable to fall fully asleep, which leaves a person skimming the shallow end of the sleep cycle for hours without descending into the slow wave stages where the body does its real restorative work. Physical exhaustion of the kind generated by genuine labor produces a different neurological state entirely. The adenosine pressure, the specific chemical that accumulates in the brain with wakefulness and physical activity and that drives deep sleep, is higher in people who have worked their bodies through genuine physical effort during the day. Sleep onset is faster. Slow wave sleep is deeper and longer. The body is genuinely spent, and it knows exactly what to do with darkness and a cool room when it finally gets both. Amish women in Lancaster County work physically from before sunrise until after supper. They garden, can, launder, haul, cook over wood stoves, tend animals, and clean without the labor-saving convenience of appliances that remove the physical component from domestic work. By the time the kerosene lamp is lit and the household settles after the evening meal, their bodies carry a physical tiredness that is fundamentally different from the mental fatigue of a screen-heavy workday. The adenosine has accumulated. The melatonin is rising. The room is cooling. The light is warm and dim. Every biological condition for deep, restorative sleep is present simultaneously, not because of anything purchased or taken or optimized, but because the shape of the day created those conditions as a natural consequence of how it was lived. The fourth element is the evening meal timing and composition, and this is where the conversation becomes specific in ways that most sleep advice never reaches. The Amish supper is eaten early, typically between 5 and 6 in the evening, and it is the last food consumed before bed. There is no late-night snacking, no eating at 9 or 10 while watching television, no protein shake before sleep, no late dessert. The kitchen is cleaned and closed after supper, with a finality that the modern kitchen, available and stocked and lit at all hours, never achieves. The significance of this for sleep quality is documented in the research on circadian biology and digestive timing. The body's digestive organs operate on the same circadian clock as the sleep system. They are designed to be active during daylight hours and to downshift as darkness falls. Eating late in the evening forces the digestive system to remain active during the hours when the circadian system is attempting to transition into rest mode. Core body temperature, which needs to fall for deep sleep to initiate, is elevated by the metabolic work of digestion. The hormonal environment of the evening is disrupted. Sleep onset is delayed. The depth of early night slow-wave sleep, the most physically restorative stage, is reduced in proportion to how recently and how heavily the person ate before lying down. An Amish woman who finished supper at 5:30 and goes to bed at 9 has given her digestive system 3.5 hours to complete its work before sleep begins. Her core temperature has been falling for hours. Her melatonin has been rising since the light began to fade. Her body is doing what bodies do when the conditions are right, which is preparing for sleep with a biological thoroughness that no supplement can replicate, because no supplement addresses the actual conditions. It only attempts to chemically override the consequences of conditions that were never corrected. Part 2 continues with the remaining elements of the Amish sleep pattern, including the specific role of the morning light exposure that sets the entire circadian rhythm for the following night. What happened in 1879 that changed the sleep of every American who was not Amish, and the documented internal conversation within the pharmaceutical sleep aid industry about the population of plain communities whose sleep data consistently falls outside every model their products were designed to address. The fifth element is morning light exposure, and it is the one that closes the loop on everything described in Part 1. The circadian rhythm is not set at bedtime, it is set at waking. The first exposure to bright natural light in the morning is the signal that resets the biological clock for the following 24 hours, establishing the timing of the melatonin rise that will come that evening and determining how reliably the body initiates sleep when darkness falls. People who wake and immediately move through indoor spaces under artificial light, checking phones before their eyes have adjusted to the morning, commuting in cars with tinted windows, arriving at offices with fluorescent overhead lighting and no window access, are starting the circadian clock with a muffled and ambiguous signal that produces a muffled and ambiguous hormonal response 16 hours later when they are trying to fall asleep. Amish women walk outside within minutes of waking. The morning chores that begin the day, feeding animals, drawing water, tending the kitchen garden, happen outdoors in direct natural light at an hour when the light spectrum is broad and the circadian signal it delivers is unambiguous. The biological clock receives a clear, strong reset every single morning without exception and without any conscious intention on the part of the woman performing it. She is not optimizing her sleep. She is feeding chickens. The sleep optimization is a consequence of how the day is structured, not a goal she is pursuing. What happened in 1879 was Edison's demonstration of the practical incandescent bulb, and what followed was the fastest reorganization of human daily life in the history of the species. Within 50 years, the structure of the evening that human biology had operated inside for 100,000 years was dismantled in every electrified household on Earth. The Amish were not dismantled with it. Their theology made the choice for them before the choice became culturally invisible, and 50 years after that choice was made, researchers began documenting in plain communities the sleep outcomes that the rest of the population was paying billions of dollars to pharmaceutical companies to try to recover. The pharmaceutical sleep aid industry has conducted community health surveys in plain populations. The sleep data that comes back from those surveys does not fit the models their products were designed to address, because those products were designed to treat a problem that the Amish do not have. The problem is not a sleep disorder. It is a light disorder, a timing disorder, a labor disorder, and a relationship with darkness disorder that the modern world created and then immediately began selling solutions for. The $0 bedtime habit is not a habit at all in the way the modern wellness industry uses that word. It is not something you add to your evening. It is something you stop doing. Stop eating after 7. Stop looking at screens after dark. Stop keeping your bedroom warm enough to sleep without covers. Stop waking to artificial light and moving through your morning indoors. Stop treating darkness as an inconvenience to be managed with blackout curtains while the phone on the nightstand emits blue light through its screen every time a notification arrives. The woman in Gordonville, who has not set an alarm in 53 years, is not doing anything. She is not doing the things that broke everyone else's sleep and then sold them something to fix it. That is the whole answer, and it has always been free.